All right, so let's get this show on the road. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Indigenous Insights. My name is Mitch Bolo. This interview, we got to say the official stuff, is being hosted by the NMU Student Equity and Engagement Center, the SECC, working to build a vibrant, stimulating, and safe community where culture, diversity is highly valued, differences are respected, and people from all cultures and backgrounds flourish. That's a great mission statement. With us today, we have Amber Morseau. She's the director of the Center of Native American Studies at Northern Michigan University. Amber, welcome to the show.
Miigwech, thank you.
All right, so again, our very first Zoom interview, so we'll see how this goes. I have some questions for you. I'm gonna pose them nice and quick. Are you ready?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, they're pretty basic. The first one is, please just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about where you're from.
Absolutely. Amber Morseau Indigenous, Mashike and Dodem, Bodawadami and Dao, Pokaganik and Demendagwas. My name is Amber Morseau. I'm a Pokagon Band citizen of the Potawatomi. I am Turtle Clan, and yeah, so a little bit about me. I'm originally from the Ann Arbor area. I was born and raised down there, so I am a troll. I went to school at Eastern Michigan University, so I went to school in Ypsilanti. Soon after that, so I actually got my bachelor's in psychology and anthropology there, and then I later went on to get my master's in higher education student affairs. Shortly after I graduated, I actually moved to South Dakota. I was out in the Dakotas for a couple of years. I think I was out there for 2.5. Started as the Native American Recruitment Coordinator for South Dakota State University, and then I transitioned into the program coordinator at the same institution. And then this wonderful opportunity came about just shortly after I had had my son. So, you know, I was really feeling a call to come home. You know, after having a child, I wanted to be a little bit closer to family, and so this wonderful opportunity and posting to work at Northern Michigan University as the director of the center just came up. It shone down on me, and so now I'm grateful for this position to be able to for this opportunity to be able to bring me home and to serve Anishinaabe people.
So what was that decision like? What was that time like? Was it an easy decision? Did you think about it? Did you talk to family, or was it just like, I'm going?
You know, it was a little challenging. It wasn't as easy as some people would think. You know, I did make the decision to leave Michigan and go out to South Dakota, get some world experience working with Native American students. And so it was really hard to separate myself from those students. I mean, there are certainly some of them that I keep in great contact with. But that was definitely one of the more challenging decisions that I had to make, because I wasn't expecting an opportunity like this to come up so soon. And so, you know, I really created a family for myself out in South Dakota with my students and with my colleagues. And so being able to have to factor that in was definitely, it was a consideration. But, you know, after talking with my partner and talking with my family here at home and talking with my mom especially, the decision was really clear that it was time, that, you know, Creator had given me this really awesome opportunity. And so I just put my application out there, and I was really excited to be welcomed as a part of the interview process. You know, just as I had gotten further and further in the application process and going through the interviews, it really did seem like a better fit. And so when I was offered the opportunity to be the director, there was no hesitation at all to accept.
Very cool. And for people who might not be familiar, I mean, the name sort of implies it, but can you tell us a little bit about what the Center of Native American Studies is all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Center for Native American Studies offers a holistic curriculum rooted in Native American themes. So here, as a part of our curriculum, we challenge students to think critically and communicate effectively about Indigenous issues, with the emphasis on the Great Lakes Indigenous perspectives. So we have, where our program is very unique from other programs that you may see at South Dakota State University or out in Washington, Arizona State, is that our curriculum is very rooted in Anishinaabe lens. We also stimulate further respectful inquiry about Indigenous people and provide active learning and service learning opportunities that strengthen student engagement, interaction, and reciprocity with Indigenous communities, specifically focused on the Great Lakes region. So what that means is that we are working with our communities. We have a couple of different projects that we actually have going on right now with KVOCC.
Yep.
And so what we're doing is we are strengthening that engagement that we have in academia with tribal members as well. So by connecting with the tribal college that provides us access to work with our students and their students on a collaborative level. However, one of the things that we're looking to do, or that I'm looking to do specifically as the new director, is to expand that a little bit. How can we get NMU researchers involved in tribal community issues? But I don't want it to come from, hey, we want to do research on your community. What we're envisioning is that tribal communities, you identify what some of those research interests are. What is it that your community is specifically taking on? We want to be able to foster those different relationships with folks in the NMU Research Network. And so one of my goals is to try and be that middle person to kind of communicate those different opportunities that the tribe is willing to offer the NMU network, and that the NMU network is willing to offer in assistance with some of those issues that are facing our communities. And when folks say issues, I think they really try to focus on some of those negative issues. There's some really positive things that are coming out of our communities. So let's flip that narrative. Let's change that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about some of the staff? Tell us about your team.
I am very blessed to have a very wonderful team. So one of the very unique things that one of the unique privileges in my position is that I get to work with two of the former directors, which not very many people get to do. So I have a lot of mentorship. I have a lot of support in my center with Dr. Reinhardt and then April Lindola. Those two have really taken the center in the last two directorships. They've taken the center to so many different heights that really you don't really see a whole lot in this discipline. So with Marty having Dr. Reinhardt.
He's Marty.
with Marty having such a deep connection to TEDNA, we have one of the only programs, if not the only program, that is accredited by the Tribal Education Director National Assembly. So that is a really great cornerstone to this program. And then April has held one of the longest directorships in the center. So this has really been a very personal project for her. And so being able to learn, different grant processes to get different programs coming out of the center, also seeing how she, her passion for Anishinaabe news. That's one of the biggest projects that we've been working on in our center, is this resurgence and gaining popularity with Anishinaabe news. This has really been a catalyst for us to showcase, or what I'm envisioning as a catalyst, to showcase our different programs that we have here at NMU, the different faculty we have here at NMU, but not necessarily on that I'm a professor, I'm credentialed, this is who I am profile. I want this to be based off of the organic relationships that our students are able to create with our faculty by getting to know who is behind this PhD, who is the person behind the professor, excuse me. So one of the things that we really focused on with this edition of Niche News is Marty has a great passion for decolonizing food, but also education. How do we combine that? So he wrote an article about food insecurity in Indian country. And then April, I'm always really inspired by one of the stories that April had told me when I first got there, and it was the creation of the beadwork class. And so being able to, for our faculty to realize that, hey, I'm human, I need to work some self-care in there. Like that, I think that's what really sets our program apart. And then, of course, we have faculty who are just going above and beyond in that classroom. So, you know, one of the things that's coming up here at NMU through the CNAS and Gender and Sexuality Studies is I'm working with one of our professors to bring a red dress installation here to NMU. And so, and programming around that, so that way we can create more awareness in the Marquette area about this issue.
Yeah.
And so what really, to bring it back to your question, is that this isn't just, you know, this isn't just 3 outstanding people. This is a whole department of committed, outstanding faculty members who are not just committed to the discipline, but to everything else that's around them. So this really supports the holistic curriculum that we've created here.
Very cool. My next question was, you know, what sets CNAS apart from other departments, but I think you kind of covered that. So let's actually go over a couple more specifics of the red dress installment. You said that it's in the process of coming to Northern.
Yes, so we have an installation that we are planning for March 22nd through March 26th. So it's coming up here really quick, but we've been calling for red dresses for, I would say, about 2 weeks now. And we have about 30 now.
Okay.
Yes, so the responsiveness of the community has just been really almost overwhelming. But you know, this was something that was brought to me by Jamie Kuehl, one of our faculty members, who works in gender and sexuality studies as well. She teaches in both CNAS and gender and sexualities. And so she was able to come to me and say, hey, you know, I've asked about this project before. Do you think we could do this year? And absolutely, I responded. That is just for faculty members to take the time out of their teaching responsibilities to put on programs about awareness around this. This is just really, it just really gives an inside look to who our faculty are, you know, beyond the classroom, beyond the limitations of that 4 walls.
Yes.
So I that's honestly probably one of the most favorite parts of my job, is being able to talk about the great work that these folks are doing. You know, Amy Cree-Dunn is one of our ecology, she focuses on ecology and stewardship, but she's also very passionate about our relative, Baingan, our wolf relative, right? And so we're getting an article from her for the next issue of Niche News about the wolf hunt that is going on in Wisconsin and in Michigan. So just really learning, you know, I've only been here for 3 months. I started on December 1st. And I already feel so connected to these folks just through their work. And you can really feel the passion. I have not met some of these folks in person yet. But we've really created a culture and an environment within our professional realm to communicate with each other on this level.
You know what? I mean, I have a lot of experience at CNAS, so I can't wait till it does get back to normal and you get to have lunch with them every day, because sitting in that center at lunchtime, having those conversations is, you know, that's what it's all about. Like you said, getting to know the person behind the degree or the PhD.
Right. That was one of my favorite things. When I was working in South Dakota, my director and I, we had a really close relationship. She's Puerto Rican Taino. And so she, you know, we were also able to just identify on being a little displaced. But that was one of the greatest things, was just being able to interact with folks on that level and sit there and do beadwork in the office while we're trying to figure out a problem together. I've been in the office with April a couple of times, and with our secretary, Carly, a couple of times. And we've been able to have a couple of conversations, but, you know, still not being able to laugh without a mask on. Like, that is something that I am looking forward to. It's just because we like to read people's facial expressions, right? Like, you know, when somebody's experiencing joy or sadness or something like that, lunch, you know, even eating together. I'm really looking forward to having some of those experiences.
Yes. You mentioned niche news. Where can people find niche news?
So we are publishing niche news on our website. So if you would like the first edition access, I guess, if that's what you call it online, but follow us on our socials. So we do have a Facebook and an Instagram page. So that's primarily where we post our news until we can start to mail things out as they become safer with COVID. But we also will host it on our website, our nmu.edu/Native American Studies website. And it will be under resources, I believe. Sorry, I'm just checking real quick. Yes, it'll be under resources. So you'll be able to click Anishinaabe News there, and then you'll be able to keep up with the most recent editions.
Very good. Okay, so let me jump around here just a little bit. Can you tell us how culture has played a role in your life?
Well, considering that, you know, I don't know, it's just that is a really tough question. I've been
It
thinking about
is.
that one.
I purposely say just culture like that too, to leave it just to see where people take it.
Right. So, you know, I grew up going to powwows with my grandparents and with my family. And so, you know, that has always been a part of who I am. But I didn't really grow into my identity until I got to college and got into the really hard stuff. So I think my activism when I was at EMU, that had really helped to solidify it. And honestly, finding that connection in that process of going through college really led me to where I am today. I would not have this position. I would not have been able to gone to school if it were not for the tribe, for our ancestors, for the Michigan Indian Tuition Waiver. I wouldn't have been able to do it. And then facing some of those tougher issues that it's like, okay, this is what our ancestors were fighting for, was for equal opportunity for us to be able to go to college. And we're still facing issues like the mascot issue. That made me just want it so much more. And so really, I went into college thinking I was going to come out a medical professional. So for me to be able to shift focus from a very STEM-based field to humanities, granted it did take 8 different major changes for me to get here, but you know, my identity and how I processed that and absorbed all this information and learned from my mentors pointed me in the direction of getting to education. I never thought in a million years, I'll tell you, it takes one internship. That's all it takes. One internship, one job to be able to shift that without even really you noticing. So I would have to say miigwech wewena to my uncle, Sam Morseau, who's the former education director for the Pokagon Band. He held the Dreamcatchers summer program for our youth. And that was my first experience in working in an education field. I really didn't see myself working with children, but really that it just being able to absorb those different cultural ways of knowing led me to this. So I know that was a really long explanation for your question, but what culture means to me is it's just the life. It's the life in everything you do. It's the stewardship of your being. It really has shaped how I view my family. It shapes how I've raised my family. And it shapes how I really drive the direction of the center. It's just a very holistic, there's really no way to explain it other than that.
That was the perfect answer. That was the perfect answer. Oh, I kicked my computer here. All right, so let's go to this one. This is for potential students. They might be right on the edge of like, do I want to go further in education? It might be young or old even. Do you have any words for potential students who could right now apply and change their lives?
Yes. My advice would be to take some time to think about it. My biggest advice to students that I would give them when I was recruiting was college can be the greatest, most wild adventure that you have in your entire life, or it can be the most expensive mistake that you ever make. I know that that is really weird coming from a college administrator, but honestly, I would rather students take some time, think about this decision, talk to some people. You know, it doesn't really cost anything to reach out to an advisor. It certainly doesn't cost anything to reach out to me if you're thinking about what is this environment looking like to support me. What does, you know, voicing some of those concerns. Let's just have a conversation about it. Or, you know, even if it's not me, talk to somebody at your tribal college. Talk to folks in your tribal education department as well. So my biggest advice would probably be to reach out, ask lots of questions. I don't want it to sound like I'm squashing anybody's ambitions, but the reality is that sometimes education is not designed to support folks for whatever that means. I believe that our department is designed to support folks, but everybody's different. You know, more at NMU, you're more than just a number. At your tribal college, you're more than just a number. And maybe that's where you start, is at your tribal college first. And then we develop a relationship over the first 2 years that you're in your tribal college. So that way you can transfer to NMU or any school for that fact. So that's usually where I encourage folks to start, is just do a lot of research, do a lot of talking, reach out, explore the option of your tribal college, and then usually the relationship pretty much takes off from there.
Yeah, I think the people would appreciate the honesty on that one.
Yeah.
Now, this one might be throwing you on the spot a little bit, but when it comes to like our KBOCC here, the credits that they get here they can transfer to the NMU when they want to transfer, right? And you guys have that set up with other tribal colleges, BMCC over there?
Yes. So there is a Michigan transfer agreement that is had with the tribal college and with NMU, where there are a number of courses that will transfer over for credit. Most students will be able to go to a community college for the first 2 years of their academic experience and then transfer over to NMU for a 4-year bachelor's degree. Essentially what you would be doing at that point is you are getting your associates and then applying to go to NMU.
Okay, I see. All right, we're getting closer down to the end of the list here. You sort of mentioned, you said the word a couple times in this interview. What's your take on the process of decolonization?
Yes, so this is a long, long road.
It's like about asking about culture.
Yeah, it's a very hot discussion right now about decolonization and what does that mean. And honestly, it's how are folks going to be able to adjust to a culture shift from looking at a traditionally Western driven narrative in education to something that is purely decolonial. So really breaking that down is, what are the steps that we need to take right now to create a better future for the next generation? This is something that weighs on my mind a lot as a mother. What is this space going to look like in 17 years when my child goes to college? You know, yep. Is it going to be a very PWI feel, public, predominantly white institution feel, or is it going to be more of a tribal college holistic institute instead of, you know, grading folks on an A through B scale? Like, you know, even thinking about K through 12 systems, because that's where it has to start. We have to be able to plant that seed for it to be a tree, right? Yes. So, you know, starting there, where is the pedagogical shift? Where do we change our teaching structure? And so this weekend, I'm actually presenting at the Michigan Indian Education Council, their annual conference. And so one of the things that I'll be speaking on is, how do we rematriate pedagogy in the classroom? How do we make these systems more holistic? How do we give back to the earth that we learn from? And so being able to see that pedagogical shift and using rematriation as a catalyst for that, being able to learn from our earth and give back and view things as all things are relative, that is what a decolonial lens looks like. And so being able to shift those different systems, starting through K through 12 and then progressing into higher education, it's really the higher education specialist's responsibility. It's almost like a vicious cycle, right? It's the higher education specialists' responsibility to train the future teachers to change the K through 12 system. And so it really goes through this whole really unique life cycle of decolonization. That's what I'm going to call it, the life cycle of decolonization. I like it.
Let's coin that right now. I like it. I like how automatically decolonization for you is right there with education. Like it's built in right there. Mm-hmm. So this is another one that just kind of popped up on the side of my head because I'll ask this sometimes. When I speak to people like you in your position, it always seems like that you can, right off the tip of your tongue, throw out a title of a book that you've read in this subject that's changed your life. Do you have any books like that that have been huge for you?
Wow. Yes. So I would have to say for beginner level, Lies My Teacher Told Me. Is that what the name of the book is?
You got it on hand.
Lies My Teacher Told Me, yes. And then I would probably say Always a People.
Always a People?
Always a People. That book was really central to why, grounding me in the why it's important to do this work. It's been a while since I've read it, so I may have to pull it out again. But it's been a couple of years since I read it, but it really left an impact on me in, you know, in reflecting and moving back home, coming back to Anishinaabe territory from Oceti territory. I felt a call from that book. And this is the why you do these things. This is the why you return home. So definitely those teachings really helped navigate my experience.
Very cool. I like to throw that out there because there might be people that they can go Google it right now and they can change their lives just by reading that book.
Yeah.
So let's get down. Is there anything else that we haven't covered here that you'd like to talk about?
I don't think so. I think we covered everything from niche news to those really hard questions. And so this has been a really great interview. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, Chimiguch for being here. The last thing we'll do before we sign off then is, do you have any last words to the viewers or the listeners?
Just, you know, as we get closer to spring and things start to become more available to the general public, doing outside activities and such, please feel free to reach out to us and see what we have going on. And, you know, if anybody would like to invite us to any of their events, we're always open for that. We always send it out to our students too. So we want to be able to support you all in whatever capacity we can. So our door is always open. My door is always open. I don't shy away from contact or anything like that. So please feel free to reach out to us.
All right, Chimiguch.
Let's
see here.